Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom. From movies, comics, TV shows, video games, we've got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. And Court, we're getting a little spooky this week.
Yeah, it is. Did I say Christmas is coming early? I meant Halloween. Halloween's coming a little early.
Spooky Christmas.
Spooky Christmas. The spookiest Christmas is asking for Chris Pratt to play Mario.
Yeah, so since, for some reason, Marvel decided not to release this around Halloween.
I mean, technically, it's getting in preparation. It still was released in October. I'll take that.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the Marvel special presentation, Werewolf by Night, directed by Michael Giacchino, the noted and Oscar-winning composer. And we'll talk about it because I think we both have some very good things to say about it.
I definitely do.
So yeah, that's what it's going to be. It's also a pretty light news week, so we're going to get through that, starting with the Spawn news. So it's very early 2000s here. We got some Spawn news.
Yeah, Spawn is back.
So this was something that I feel like kind of flown under the radar when it was first announced, that Jamie Foxx would be assuming the role of Spawn in the, I guess, Spawn reboot. Mm-hmm. So Todd McFarlane has since released some new details surrounding that. So Jamie Foxx obviously still attached to the project. And then we have the writers revealed. None other than Malcolm Spellman is on board. So for those of you who may not know, that is the mind behind Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And cool. I mean, Spawn is, I feel like I compare Spawn a lot to Venom in a lot of ways, in the sense that it's like this like late 90s, early 2000s when it hit comics hit kind of like this extreme phase of like everything was chains and dark and gritty and violent, and Spawn kind of emerged from that as kind of this cult classic kind of superhero, anti-hero. So, cool. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what Jamie Foxx brings to the character. Obviously, for me, Spawn was, I associate him more with like the Keith David animated version, who obviously Keith David returned for Mortal Kombat 11 when Spawn was a guest character in that game. So, cool. I'm looking forward to it, I think.
No, I think it's good. I mean, you want to talk range of an actor, you look at Jamie Foxx. I mean, the man really has every talent conceivable for anybody that's in the entertainment business. So it's an incredible choice to play Spawn. I know it's something that he was pretty passionate about as well through talking about it. Through the last, it feels like 6+ years he's been talking about this and has been attached to this. So it's been a while. It kind of feels like the same way that Dwayne Johnson was attached to Black Adam, where this was kind of like their comic book baby. I know obviously he played Electro before, but this kind of seems like the thing where he's going to be front and center. And I mean, we talked about it with The Boys, we talked about it with Invincible, and then recently Sandman. Having your creator in the room for the project you're going to make is going to make it better. So this is going to be a prime example of this. So I think this could turn out to be pretty solid. So we're going to see who's going to direct this. That's probably the next big piece of news we're going to grab from this.
Yeah.
Directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's, obviously this is, of all the things Todd McFarlane's done, both good and bad, I think we can all agree that Spawn is obviously the big one and the thing he's most notable for. So, it doesn't surprise me that he would want to be so closely associated with it, because, this is his at the end of the day, and something he's very proud of and protective of. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Speaking of things that people may or may not be proud of, so we got a Mario trailer, the much awaited quote unquote live action. So fully animated Mario film was finally unveiled. The trailer was revealed, and what did we think of it?
So the first half of that trailer, actually like the first 85% of that trailer was pretty cool. Can we just tell this story from Bowser's perspective?
Yeah, I think that's
make Bowser like an anti-hero kind of thing, or like a fallen leader.
The prevailing kind of thought coming off of this trailer was that Jack Black's Bowser is actually really, really seeming really good.
Yeah, and it's like kind of interesting, very menacing. I love the approach to it too. So I had a lot of fun with that to start the trailer. Got a lot of good comedy bits, which you're going to expect because this is the same studio that did the Minions movies. I'm almost certain. So, and
this is not going to be a Sonic type situation where it takes place in the real world. This is going to be wholly in the world of Mario, and it's fully animated and all that. And then we were introduced to Chris Pratt's Mario.
Yeah. Why?
It's a choice.
It is a choice. Because it didn't even seem like he was talking with the accent in the first bit, like the first line he gave, and then, when he's talking about like the here we go, like it sounded like the accent. So I personally just don't understand the choice. Like, I don't know why that was the direction you decided to go in. And you're saying like if this was a live action Mario, I'm talking a very big maybe to why you get Chris Pratt, but this isn't live action. This is still animated. So why was he your first? Maybe he wasn't your first choice, but why was he like on the short list, in my opinion?
Yeah, it's definitely a choice. And Chris Pratt has talked about how he drew inspiration from, we talked about the passing of Tony Sirico, a few months ago. Right. And that's where he kind of drew inspiration for this Mario voice in the form of Tony Sirico's Polly Walnuts from The Sopranos. So it's going to be a little Brooklyn, a little New York. I don't think we can judge it based off this trailer.
Sure. Yep. That's huge.
There's only... He does a lot of and then he does the like the let's go and the what is this place? So what is that, like 7 words total? So I'm still reserving judgment. I think this movie will end up being kind of carried by Bowser, by Jack Black. But I think it looked pretty neat.
And can I say the other big thing? This is a kid's movie. Like, I think that's the big thing that we're going to need to go into. Same thing with anything that has controversy that's not for adults. Like, this isn't an adult.
It's obviously not for us.
It's not for us. It's just, kids aren't going to think the same ways we think. They're not going to think logistically about these things. They're just going to go to watch and have fun, and that's all it should be about.
They're going to see one of their favorite kind of characters that I mean, obviously, we've all grown up on Mario, but he's still one of the foremost video game characters for kids, and up until now. Right. So obviously, even though we all kind of have this association with that character, like, it's still geared for people who are kids now that are growing up with the character. So yeah, that's the other thing that we have to keep in mind. We got a little look at Luigi. Yep. Looking spooked.
Looking spooked.
Classic Luigi.
Yeah, very scared.
People are already petitioning to make a Luigi's Mansion movie.
Yeah. Give us the spinoff.
So, yeah. I mean,
are they going to do a Fast and Furious-esque movie for Mario Kart? Are we going to get like an Interstellar Space Odyssey for
Super Mario Galaxy?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. And I mean, you talked about Bowser being an anti-hero. You could even go down the route of a Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Yep. Where Bowser teams up with Mario and company to take on an even bigger threat. So
do Mario vs. Sonic at the Olympic Games.
I've been saying this. We've been saying this. We're building to our Super Smash Brothers Avengers-esque movie.
Yeah, it's going to be the biggest movie of all time. It's going to make $1 trillion. Just wait.
Speaking of movies that might make $1 trillion.
Yeah, and I didn't think so before, but now I'm feeling it.
We were debating whether or not we even wanted to include this because it is so... Up top, massive spoilers ahead for Black Adam, which releases in a couple weeks. And like I said, we debated on whether or not we even wanted to talk about this, but because The Rock has been so forthcoming at this point, I think it is a fair thing to discuss. Right. So again, I'm going to double down. I'm going to put it in the time codes. Massive spoilers ahead for Black Adam. If you do not want to be spoiled, but like I said, The Rock has been very forthcoming and very, very outward about this, and I think that's a purposeful choice on his part. So apparently what is going to happen at the end of Black Adam is Henry Cavill will indeed return as Superman to confront about Black Adam, do the we need to talk kind of thing. I
don't think this is anything more than a cameo. I just think this is a very quick, he just does one line, but I mean, it's the significance of him being back, and it's going to be fitting that we're going to get the Shazam movie because Shazam 3 has got to be Black Adam versus Shazam, right? Like, it's like that. I can never remember what the animated movie's called, but it's where like Billy and Clark he finds out that he's Shazam and he kind of mentors him a little bit and Black Adam's the threat. Like, I could very much see that being the plot. Like, that would be a good place because Billy Batson and Shazam specifically is supposed to be like a contemporary for Superman, but in like a child's perspective. Like, it's a really interesting dynamic that they can have. So I think Zachary Levi and Henry Cavill would play well off each other. And then you add The Rock into any fold, I think it's going to work. So I can kind of see the wheels behind Warner Brothers starting to turn. And I know this wasn't a part of the news, but Ezra Miller came back to to reshoot a little bit of the Flash. So are they back in? Or are they giving them the kind of the green light to say, hey, you're back in this universe. We're going to try to get this kickstarted again. So we'll see.
Yeah. Like I said, I feel like this was a very purposeful choice by Dwayne Johnson. I mean, he's the ultimate kind of money generating machine in Hollywood. He knows exactly what buttons to press to get people to see his films. And I think it was just an innocuous kind of maybe a leaker on Twitter had mentioned that Cavill was gonna show up in the classic red and blue suit with the John Williams Superman score behind it.
I'm upset. I'll save that, but I'm a little upset.
And then The Rock kind of has since gotten out in front of that and been like, well, he's been very coy, but also very pointed in his comments, saying like Black Adam is the most powerful force on the planet, but there's an even more powerful force in the universe that has been on the sidelines. A not so subtle reference to Superman,
to Hawkman.
Who we have Superman who we have not seen since technically Peacemaker, but we haven't seen Henry Cavill since Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Right.
So
we didn't even get to see him in Shazam. We just saw his body.
Torso.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can finally, I apparently put to rest the what did Henry Cavill do to Warner Brothers to not be Superman?
He just wasn't
anymore.
friends with The Rock yet. Now he's best friend. Well, I think him and The Rock have the same agent. I'm pretty sure. Like they're like they knew each other before. Like they, it always felt that it was a possibility, but now it's like it's a definite at this point.
Yeah, and this is, I talked about it when we've talked about this movie in the past. It's just that one intangible that The Rock has that other movie stars just don't have. He has that kind of pull. I mean, I would assume this was inherently his idea to bring Henry Cavill back.
And I mean, can I be honest, from a storytelling perspective, what's the thing you do if you have too powerful of a character? You need to put them against somebody that's that powerful. Like, it feels like Dr. Fate's going to be kind of like an Ex Machina, because it's like you're going round about the rules of straight up strength. But if you need to go to straight up strength, I mean, Superman's the other person that you get for that. So I wonder if the Justice League themselves is going to reform, because I mean, the big other piece to this is Ben Affleck's Batman. Like, I don't even want to say that I think he's never coming back again. Like, this gives me a little hope that he might come back and suit up once again and just be the main, the mainstream Batman. I mean, the whole this is getting confusing because the whole Michael Keaton stuff, because that was the plan, is to make Michael Keaton like the regular universe Batman, just an older version after Flashpoint. But
yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a case of at the time that all these plans were being discussed, they didn't really know who to kind of make the cornerstone of this universe, and we joked that it would be Black Adam, but shoot, it might just be just because of the Rock's kind of pull behind the scenes that if this movie does do well, and I think he was smart enough and savvy enough to kind of get ahead of this Superman thing, because now people are going to go see this movie to see, and at the end of the day, movie studios don't care why people are going to see movies.
Absolutely not. It's a business for them.
They're if people are buying a ticket to see Henry Cavill show up at the end of Black Adam, it's still a ticket sold. So I think my expectations box office wise for this movie have now gone much higher than I anticipated at first.
And now the potential for the DCEU has kind of been reinvigorated, in my opinion. Like, kind of the limits are going to get tested, because now you're getting one of the, if not the biggest movie star on the planet right now, to kind of help reform the Justice League, which is even an insane sentence to say, but who thought that Black Adam was going to be the guy that kind of brings everybody back into the fold? But again, he's the most credible threat on the planet. So you do need, like, this is, and the great words of Mysterio, like, this is a Justice League level threat. Like, we do need to form them. Like, cool, you have the Justice Society, but you're not the Justice League. Like, you need the full league. Like, and maybe this is finally going to give us some context on, like, where the DCEU's at right now, because, like, you have the dang Justice Society running around right now. Like, you have the Suicide Squad running around out there, you have the Justice Society, and you have the Justice League. Like, you have all these teams that are running around out there, but it feels like the last thing we've seen is, like, just the Justice League being formed, and that was the last thing we heard about anything. Yeah. And then the Suicide Squad was so much farther out than everything that we don't know. Peacemaker's the only thing that kind of was like, yeah, the Justice League's still a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't lie. I'm way more intrigued now.
Yeah, before you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
Yeah, you've done it again, The Rock.
Yeah, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
man, like I said, you just can't underestimate him.
I did underestimate him a little bit.
You can't. You just can't.
I just thought the Warner Brothers was in so much shambles that, like, they couldn't survive this, and then the Don't Worry Darling stuff happened, and I was just like, there's no way they can survive anything. Like, nothing's gonna save this. And then all the Ezra Miller stuff happened, and I was like, they can't salvage this. And then he's like, I'm just going to do the simple thing that somebody should have done 4 years ago, and it's put Henry Cavill in a movie.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want about The Rock, but he has always been in the business of people pleasing. Mm-hmm. That is kind of his gimmick, his shtick, is giving people what they want. Yeah. And you know, he must hear every day that and must have read every day that all people want literally is Henry Cavill to be back as Superman. So.
It's a dangerous line to walk, but I think he's on the right side of it right now. He hasn't divulged into the way that it could be negative, because the people pleasing thing is where you get, you know,
Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, like you get some like projects where it's just like there's no substance because it's all about cameos and getting people back. But sometimes I think this is on the side of it working.
Yeah, I think so. And then, you know, it's going to kickstart a whole nother conversation about what Henry Cavill's involvement is going to be going forward. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously he's still tied down with The Witcher, but really that's all he's doing.
Right. I don't think that's too big of an issue. It's just the Enola Holmes series, which I think he can manage balancing that because they just shot the last one. So I don't think that's a huge deal. And then obviously, like you said, The Witcher is like his main commitment. But I mean, I do think he has like this cult following of Superman, and like me being included, of these Man of Steel fans that are like, that's such a definitive Superman. Like, I love the portrayal of the character. Like, I do think he needs his shot, like his time in the sun again, and I think he's gonna get it.
It seems that way. Yeah, I'm excited. I can't lie.
I'm still not 100% sold on the actual movie itself. I don't know.
No, me either.
I don't know.
But here's another thing that we were debating on talking about, but I feel like given that we have some breathing room this week, we can afford to talk about it a little bit, because we are going to talk about She-Hulk next week, our full kind of season review of She-Hulk, and so we got Daredevil this past.
You didn't say spoilers.
People know. I feel like
it was in the promo for the whole week anyway. He's back.
He was great.
Oh, he was absolutely incredible in this episode. He fit so seamlessly into the MCU, and like all those like concerns and gripes, like I just didn't understand. Like I didn't get it. Like I feel like Charlie Cox is such this chameleon where it's like he can kind of fit in anywhere, and I mean this is the prime example of this. Like, you want to do the controversy first? What do you want to do? How do you want to go about this?
Oh, we can talk about the controversy first, I suppose.
So, what's the biggest controversy?
He was smiling.
He was happy. So, I don't know how this was so confusing to some people. Because this does feel like a continuation of the Daredevil show. I don't know where this got lost in translation, but he was at a pretty good point in his life after Born Again. Like after season 3, I refer to that as Born Again because that's truthfully what that was based off of. But after season 3, he got Nelson and Murdoch back up off the ground. The Kingpin's gone permanently. He knows not to. I mean, obviously he's coming back, but like at this point, he thinks it's done. Like that's over. He's kind of, laid to rest his feelings for Elektra. Like, obviously he'll never not feel for her, but that's in the past. He dealt with all that stuff. Stick is gone. He doesn't have that burden on top of him. Like, this is a pretty decent point in his life, and like now he can go out and be Daredevil like full time now, and like just stop crime. There's no bigger bad to kind of deal with. Like, he's feeling good. That's like probably why he like in Daredevil season 3 he was having the absolute worst time of his life. Like, he was legally dead. Like, the Kingpin is running New York City at this point. Nelson Murdoch is broken. Elektra died again. Like, he had to watch the love of his life die a second time. Like, his life was just in shambles, but now it's not. So that's probably why he looks fine.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that complicated to understand that.
Yeah, and I mean, they said from the jump that he was going to fit into this this narrative that She-Hulk was trying to tell in that tone, and it works. I mean, Daredevil in the comics is not always dark and broody.
No, that's such a big thing that I don't think people misconstrue, is that he's this like Batman sitting in a... I'm like, no, this man's... He's a ladies' man. Like, he's
womanizer?
Yep.
Womanizer Matt is back in this episode?
Yeah, he doesn't... He can't help himself. He doesn't... He's not such this, like... he's funny. Like, he's got good comedic bits, and I'm always of the fruition that Daredevil is actually kind of funny. Like, that show's it's got some really good jokes in there too, and like, he's got some pretty good jokes in here. Like, he's funny. I just think Charlie Cox is having a good time. Like, I think that's as simple as this is.
Yeah, and I mean, the chemistry between he and Tatiana Maslany was man, that scene, the scene in the bar, the scene in the bar, the scene on the rooftop when he explains, he does the Daredevil bit about explaining why he can hear.
I have something on that too for her, because I think this episode might have been probably the most crucial for this show, because he set her on her hero's journey. Like, that's what I was waiting for this whole time. He was the one that set her on her hero's journey, because she, even, like, everybody was saying it. Bruce was like, they were saying, like, at some point you're gonna need to be She-Hulk, and like, I think it's the fact that he's blind, like, because of the trauma that she had to face the week prior, and like actually later in the episode of, like, you know, these guys ghosting her and like them only caring about She-Hulk. Like, he physically can't look and care about She-Hulk because he can't see her. Like, all he's worried about is Jen. Like, Jennifer Walters is the only thing. So it's like, also he's a lawyer on top of that. She understands his profession without him being condescending, because she had to deal with that from week 1, and also
and he dealt with it again in this episode.
Right.
You know, when with the lawyer, you know, her being given the lawyer award, and then finding out that literally just every woman lawyer got the award is kind of like this, like, backhanded slap in the face to, like, women in that profession, being like, we appreciate all of you, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so.
And then the biggest thing was the fact that he gave her the great power, great responsibility. Like, what you can do as Jennifer, like, I think he understands, and it's the line between superhero and vigilante. Like, he gets, like, I can only do so much as Matt Murdock, but the thing that people forget is I can do something as Matt Murdock. Like, some of the superheroes don't think I can do anything as, you know, as my person. Like, I need to be the superhero, but like, he understands, like, I can do something as Matt Murdock. I can help. It's not me going out and punching guys. It's me helping, you know, this single mother, like, you know, win this lawsuit, something as simple as that. Like, he tells her, like, you can help people as Jennifer Walters, and when that system fails, then you can go out as She-Hulk. You have a backdrop and a failsafe to kind of, you know, be bulletproof against the system. So I think that's the perfect way to send her on her hero's journey, is have somebody that kind of knows what she's going through, and maybe not wanting to look at sights. Like, he was blinded. Like, that's something that's very traumatic to somebody, and he owned it, and now he's Daredevil, but more importantly, now he's Matt Murdock.
Yeah, and they hooked up.
Because he can't help himself.
He did. People were calling it the walk of shame, but it was the walk of I just did that. I'm the man on these streets.
I am the man. Yeah.
So that was fun, and you know, independent of all the Daredevil stuff, just a really good episode.
I think that is a really good episode. Yeah.
The ending was heartbreaking.
Oh my gosh, yeah. What else? Yeah, that man.
I mean, I saw people saying, like, was this like like one of the worst kind of, like, personal things that has happened to a hero?
The MCU?
Like, it's up there.
It is up there.
It's like that, you know, that's a real life thing that happens to women, and it's horrifying.
It is horrifying.
To have your very, very intimate personal life revealed in front of the public, against your will, against your wishes. It's traumatizing. You know, on top of that, like, you saw her become like that feral Hulk. Like, that's the one thing that triggered her pure rage for the first time, you know, since she had become She-Hulk. And I think that's very palpable, and it makes me really excited for this week, I should say. That makes me excited for the finale this week, you know, where that's going to go, because all of a sudden, you know, the show right at the last minute, and I think it works, kind of really hit the emotional beat that it needed to hit, you know, but it hit it at the perfect time, because this was kind of like the fun, you know, kind of low risk kind of series, but then you hit that emotional beat that doesn't have any major implications for the universe at large, but has major implications for her. And I think that's ultimately what this show,
I mean, it's the way that, it's the way you structure stories is through your characters. That's where, like, you can always go on about structure and where things need to happen, but the things happen to somebody, and that's the character that you follow. So, he flips. Yeah. Somehow people are upset about... So, okay, look. So, are we supposed to want him to be comic accurate? Or are we supposed to want him to be this super... Like, why can't anybody be happy? Like,
yeah, this is. I mean, they did this to Kingpin also when he showed up. They kind of gave him a comic buff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
physically and literally. Yeah, physically and metaphorically, they gave him a comic buff.
Yeah, so they gave Daredevil like a comic buff where he's not so much just like this like advanced human, like that's peak human. They gave him some
he's like
stuff.
a ninja now. Like,
yeah,
he's
they gave
like,
him some stuff that not just a guy who did some training can do. Like,
yeah,
they literally gave him like a skill set that only he can do.
Yeah, it's like the metahuman thesis. Like, him being affected by those chemicals, like, we don't. It's the same way that Natasha Romanoff goes about it in the comics. Like, she's technically like a bit of a super soldier in the comics. Like, that's how you like. That's the same thing. Like, I bet you those chemicals that affected him, like, helped his like the rest of his body, like honing in on your different body parts, being able to like maneuver yourself like even better. Like, that flip that he does, like that little drop into like the flip back. I was like, this is sick. I'm like, somehow, and then people were upset. I'm like, the comics that you claim to love so much, he's flipping off of roofs on the covers of all of these. Like, what's the issue coming from?
Yeah,
I thought it was a perfect way to, because also how is Netflix Daredevil gonna fight She-Hulk? He would have died in the first 5 seconds of this.
yeah, absolutely. He would have got pummeled to death.
Oh, he fits so well. Like, it's just little subtleties, and I think that's what I always say about Charlie Cox. His subtleties are what make his character, like, when she does the thunderclap and like he does that like exaggerated scream, because if you remember, like, his whole like he's probably overwhelmed with senses right now, because it's like a supersonic blast in his ear, like the thing that he needs to kind of hone his powers. So that was really good.
There's a lot of neat homages to the Daredevil Netflix series. Obviously the theme played in the background, the Daredevil theme.
What are you, the Gold Devil? I'm Daredevil from Netflix.
That was really good. We got an homage to the infamous Daredevil hallway fight.
He got the hallway fight.
Got a little bit of a hallway fight. It wasn't a one take, but that's fine.
Yeah, we'll save our one take for later, because there was a one take that we have to talk about. There was a one take
at Werewolf by Night. And then the hallways, right before you got to the big Daredevil versus 20 guys, She-Hulk crashed through the ceiling,
and that's just She-Hulk. Like, that's the show.
Yeah. It was really great. It was really great.
Yeah. Again, this just reaffirms me how good Tatiana Maslany is too. Like, that little dance she does on the roof, and like, again, this is the character she needed to get elevated. Like, you're a makeup of everything you get. So like, Bruce in the beginning, sure, but like, she was so adamant about that not being her life, and then like, I think she did need somebody that she sees doing good on a daily basis to do that as well.
And just like I said, going back to their chemistry, that like that little exchange that they had when she was like, "Well, you could have told me that," and then he's like,
Yeah, like, yeah. It was trying to kick my butt this whole time. I couldn't.
My ass remains unwhooped.
The internet lost it after they heard that.
I thought it was a good joke.
It's fine.
I thought it was very him.
It's fine.
I thought it was very him. I thought it fit perfectly with him.
Yeah, there's this joke that he makes in The Defenders where it's just like, Jessica asked him like, how do you afford this place? And he's just like, well, on the side, the tenant, I rough up all the people that don't pay their rent. And he's just like, I'm just kidding. Like, has he never made a joke before? He starts off Daredevil season 1 with a joke.
And it's very...
How long have we been doing this for? He said, I thought you were talking about from when we got our desks.
And his jokes are very, they border that line between dry and cheesy. Mm-hmm. Like, all his jokes have been that way, when Jessica goes, what does she say to him?
He said, you look ridiculous. It's your scarf. Like, this guy, he's very smart. And like, that courtroom battle, my man was back. He was looking like Michael Jordan in his prime back in that courtroom.
Yeah.
Son She-Hulk right there. It was great.
Yeah, it was very good. And, it makes me... Obviously, his appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home was great. Mm-hmm. But this really reaffirmed to me, like, okay, like, this is... I didn't have doubts that it was going to be good, no. But...
He was like, this was better than I anticipated.
Yeah, I agree. So before we talk about Werewolf by Night, we have one last little bit of news that kind of ties in. Oscar Isaac at New York Comic Con revealed that Moon Knight is not finished in the MCU. I don't think anyone's surprised by that particular bit of news, but so we're gonna get more Moon Knight in some form or fashion, whether that involves a season 2 of the show, whether that we see him in other things, remains unclear. But we do know that Mark Spector will return in the MCU. I'm not surprised.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you don't get Oscar Isaac for a one-off.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised. And then, off the back end of this that we're about to talk about, clearly, I mean, we knew they were building towards the Midnight Suns and kind of the more magical, like mystical side of the MCU, but this
supernatural aspect.
Supernatural, yeah. So this really reaffirmed that. And yeah, let's, I guess, jump into Werewolf by Night.
Yeah. So, this special, right? So, Michael Giacchino's just on his piano, right? And Kevin Feige walked in and said, hey, man, you want to direct something? And Michael Giacchino just played, like, the dun-dun-dun, and then he just walked out. And that's exactly how he knew he was going to do it. But seriously, so, the special, the way it was marketed wasn't anything crazy. Actually, it was rather, lackluster is not the right term, because that means quality. I just think it was kind of under the radar a little bit.
They announced it, and people were like, okay.
Yeah, we don't know who Werewolf by Night is, but now magically there's going to be something that's just like, you ruined my Werewolf by Night, my favorite character. No, you don't care about Werewolf. You just don't. Stop.
And this fit in a weird little niche that people were like, well, what is this? Is this a movie? Is this a show? And they're like, Marvel's like, well, it's neither of those things.
But it's both?
But it's both. It's a short.
Yeah, it's a special.
It's a short, it's a short film that I believe the only other one that they've got planned is the Guardians Christmas special.
Which is coming soon. Which is going to be the next time we see them after Thor: Love and Thunder.
And then, so it was just kind of hanging out, like people, didn't forget about it, but like, I guess, people didn't really care. And then we got that first trailer, and then that's when I was like, ooh, like this is something, isn't it? And then we're like, is this entirely filmed in black and white? Is this a trailer thing? Lo and behold, the whole thing is in black and white. And man, I don't even know where to start with this. We can just start with what it looks like.
Yeah, and it looks incredible. I mean, Michael Giacchino did an absolutely incredible job with this.
It's a picture perfect homage to the creature feature of the 40s and 50s.
Yep.
Like right down to the little, like, it looks like it's being shown up on a projector. Like those little like screen tears happen, interspersed throughout the thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's it's violent. It's violent.
It's the most violent thing they've done in the MCU itself. I wouldn't say, obviously the Netflix shows are more than this, but there were some points where I was like surprised. I was vehemently surprised by what they were allowing themselves to get away with.
Limbs are chopped off.
Limbs are chopped off. Throats are ripped out. Like
blood spatter on the screen.
Ears are eaten off. Like it's insane.
Yeah. And what this did, I said it to you before we started recording, was it was just a perfect, picture perfect definition of what I think these special presentations could be, because it did something wholly unique.
Yep.
And it really did something that we never really had seen before in the MCU. There's really not a comparison that I can even make to something else. You know what I mean?
I think the only thing I said about, the uniqueness of it was from Moon Knight, and I'm going to talk about Moon Knight a little bit because I think we're going to talk a little bit of Midnight Suns at the very end of this. But what it feels is that Moon Knight had no references to anything. Like it felt like its own sect of the MCU. This feels like the same thing. It feels like its own sect. Like it's the perfect thing to call it like a special. Like this is just an adrenaline shot of a character that's not an A-list Marvel character that you can kind of introduce we got the Man-Thing, which is it's a really interesting way they went about it too, but just to kind of the intersection between like these crossroads of the MCU, I think it's the perfect place to put it.
Yeah, this is, like I said, the other thing the show did was, what it did tremendously well, was it gave us this little snapshot and this quick little introduction to three characters that we're going to see going forward. You mentioned Man-Thing already. We have the titular Werewolf by Night, played by Gael Garcia, who is a notable Mexican actor. One of the most obviously. What was that movie? What's the name of the movie that he's in where he plays Che Guevara? I can't remember the name of it right now. I'll Google it while I talk. And then obviously we got Laura Donnelly as Elsa Bloodstone, and I think everyone was really good.
No, everybody was good. No, she specifically, what did I call her? I felt like she was like a supernatural Black Widow. That's the way they're gonna kind of approach her, where she's kind of like
Motorcycle Diaries is the name of the film that Gael Garcia is in.
No, but I could love her, the way they go about her lineage. She's kind of ostracized from her family. I wonder who's going to get the Bloodstone at the end of this. Elsa Bloodstone. So, it understands that cheesy 1940s way of going about these horror movies. Like, it fully embraces every aspect of that. Like, I think where the regular Marvel projects, I mean, Thor Love and Thunder is a good example for this. Like, where the regular projects won't understand some things about, like, being meta about the way they go, they had a perfect template to go off of so they can understand what's cheesy and make it work in their favor.
Yeah, and they also did a wonderful job of making those moments that are, you know, maybe not terrifying now to some audiences that come across as kind of hokey. But back then when those movies were made, some genuinely kind of disturbing and horrifying moments in this that kind of makes you like unsettled in a way. I mean, the transformation of Jack into the werewolf is really well done. You know, it's one of my favorite scenes in the entire special.
You talk about suit ups and transformations in the MCU. Just trying to think of some off the bat. I mean, just a couple. I mean, the Iron Man 2 is probably the earliest example of like, this is awesome. I mean, Iron Man 1 and 2 have really good ones. What else do we got? We got Moon Knight has a pretty cool, like the Moon Knight from the end of episode 5 where they're going out throughout Mark's history and we finally kind of learn the backstory. That's a really cool one. Thor in Infinity War and Endgame, both those transformations, but this probably is my favorite suit up / transformation in the entire MCU because it's practical. They put the makeup on him. It looks so good.
Unbelievable.
Like, I can't wait to see that, like, actual, because obviously they're going to add like a little, little pieces to add because you're going to have to do the contrast of having color in it when you're going to do this again. But I just love the way they go about it. It makes you feel more connected to Jack, in my opinion, when you do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, for all the things that we've talked about over the past few months as it relates to VFX for Marvel and all that stuff, I mean, this was as good looking as it gets.
And I think they needed a break from relying so heavily on it too, because I think even some of the shots of Man-Thing weren't VFX. And then obviously when you move Man-Thing, you kind of do need to dive into VFX.
It was still a mixture.
No, he looked good though.
Of practical, and they had a suit.
Yeah, they had a suit.
a Man-Thing suit.
Yep.
You know, on set. You know that they couldn't use for practical purposes because of how bulky it is. But yeah, I mean, you know, obviously the black and white helps, you know, that a little bit because you're only worrying about your grayscale. Yep. You know what I mean? So you don't have to worry about color too much. There is a bit of color in this.
Yeah, at the end. Very, I mean, the homages to even, why am I forgetting The Wizard of Oz? The homage at the end is really well done. You want to talk about, so let's get into the beginning of this, where this story starts off. So
it was a dark and stormy night.
It was literally and figuratively a dark and stormy night, and they're at the Bloodstone estate. You see all these hunters coming in, and like there's cool references all around too. It's like it's well done. Like it's not diving into like, oh, one of them hunted down the Hulk at some point. No, it's like they were hunting down creatures, but they even make a full homage, like, so it's in the present day. Like they're like, oh, the world has its heroes, but we're kind of in the underground of this hunting the monsters of this world too.
Classic kind of horror narration over the top, like, oh, you'll never guess where this story is going.
Yeah, which I mean, there was one aspect where I didn't know it was going, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so all of them come in, and then Jack comes in, and like they have 5 hunters. So basically, Ulysses Bloodstone has died. He can't give the
my favorite comic book character.
Yep.
Ulysses Bloodstone.
They killed Ulysses Bloodstone before we got to see him. I'm upset. You don't care about stop. You don't care about Ulysses Bloodstone. You need to stop. Maybe one of the gripes I have with this, I don't feel anything for any of the hunters, which kind of stinks. Like, maybe even if it's one of them, we got a little backstory to make me feel kind of bad, because spoiler alert, they just start getting mowed down. Which
they give the Scottish guy a little something.
I'm coming for you, lassie. I'm gonna start saying that. That's my favorite thing to come out of this whole special. Man-Thing being like just a regular guy, and that are my 2 favorite things to come out of this. But yeah, I definitely wanted maybe a little bit more. Like I said, even if one of them were like a tragic, like, my family's been at this for 100 years and I just want to make everybody like something. Just give me something. That's probably all I'm at. I don't think you need to do it with all of them, but maybe just one of them will just kind of round it out. But I mean, that's the sacrifice you need to make to have this be 52 minutes. Is you got to give up some character development for certain people, and obviously this is just focused on Jack, Man-Thing, and and Elsa. So
Yep.
we start, everybody's walking in, and then lo and behold, Jack walks in, and Jack's just looking around the room, and he's just like, you get the sense something's off with him. Like, he doesn't belong there. Like, he doesn't seem like sadistic. Like, he seems like a normal guy.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. And then, the stepmom comes in.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite cackling villains in the MCU.
Yep.
Oh, she's
absolutely.
so good. She sets the she
gives us the plot.
Gives us the plot. You guys are gonna go out into the maze and you're gonna hunt down this monster. And then they're like, oh, cool. And if you kill the monster, you get the bloodstone. But even better, we're going to put the bloodstone on the monster itself. And you're like, ooh, I wonder what this monster is going to be if I never watched the trailer before.
And then
she gives the kill counts, which is where things you start to learn a little bit more, because she's just like, oh, this person had this many kills and this person has this many kills. And then they get to Jack and he's got like double the second most kills of that. And he looks like confused when he said it, because it feels like he didn't remember all of those kills.
Yeah, and they're like, really? And he's like,
Yeah.
And then we get, someone walks up there and like, Elsa's here or whatever. And
it's
then,
like,
and then, we get our flippant kind of, against the grain protagonist in Laura Donnelly's Elsa Bloodstone. You could tell that she's like, her personality is kind of established right away. It's very, I know people preach the kind of physical comparisons to Jessica Jones, and that's pretty apt, because she does have that flippant kind of attitude towards this whole thing, where she doesn't fit in with the rest of them, much like Jack, and then her stepmom, you find out that she's Elsa Bloodstone, so she's Ulysses.
You're Elsa Bloodstone from Marvel Comics.
She's Ulysses' daughter, and her stepmom is not too happy to see her. She's like, you forsook the whole family name, and why are you here now? And she's like, well,
I want the bloodstone. Why else would I be here?
It's my birthright. Your birthright
was to die. Put Anthony Hopkins in everything.
So she sits down, and then the lay of the land, the more plot happens. Ulysses is revealed as he's like a cackling, like one of those like fortune teller machine guys.
Yeah, which is hilarious.
It's great. I'll be rotting for you.
This is hilarious. This guy's a comedian. What, am I a comedian? Do I amuse you?
And then, we're off. We're off to the races to hunt the monster.
Jack, you're going first because you're the main character. You're going through the maze.
And then I guess it's implied that they can just kill each other.
Right, yeah, to make sure they get the bloodstone. So Jack's walking, Elsa's walking, minding her business, and Jack walks by her, and this is the first, again, you realize Jack shouldn't be here, because he goes, what if we just walked by each other? And she goes, what? And she's just like, what if we just walk by each other? And then my man gives the Scottish man gives the greatest line of, I'll be coming for you, lassie. It's great.
Because they run into him, too. And they kind of like dip, dodge, dive, and dodge away from him. She steals his axe.
He needs the axe.
He does. Turns out he did need the axe.
He did need the axe, yeah. Maybe he is a descendant of Thor.
And then we get some just running and gunning, and then Jack eventually, the creature's revealed. Oh no.
Oh, it's such a interesting way they go about it. So Elsa gets separated. They have another one of the assassins, and this is where you figure out the brutality of this special, because she straight up cuts his arm off, and you see it. You see her cut his arm off because he's got like a crossbow like attached to his wrist. She cuts it off, and she uses it, and she literally pierces his chin up through his brain. Yeah, and you're seeing all of this, and like.
You're like, whoa!
We're not cutting away with this. This is great.
Yeah, no cutaway, no like implied violence. It just shink right through his face.
And she pulls him down. She pulls the old put the body over me so you can't see the other guy can't see me.
Meanwhile, she's like smothering him because he's like
he's still dying. Yeah, this whole time.
It's very brutal.
It is very brutal. And meanwhile, Jack's walking through the maze, and his back's turned against some greenery, and lo and behold, you're Man-Thing from Marvel Comics. And this is such a great twist.
Yeah.
Man-Thing knows Jack. Yeah. They're buds.
Yeah, they're friends.
Yeah. They're just old college buddies from the Monsters University.
Oh, not the Pixar Monsters University.
Not that Monsters University, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Supernatural Monsters.
Yeah, they run into each other, and Jack's like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna bust you out of here."
No, first of all, he's like, "Man, I told you not to go hunting in mazes again. You keep getting lost and trapped and hunted for sport." He's just like, "Hey, man, I'm just Fan Thing from Marvel Comics."
Yeah, so he's like, "I'm gonna bust you out of here." You know,
I got this cool grenade. Keep that in mind. That becomes comedically important later.
Yep, and then they kind of part ways, and then one of the other assassins is like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, because the what is it, Azrael? She sees them walk, and then she's like, "Wait a minute, he's not trying to kill the Man-Thing from Marvel Comics." They seem to be in cahoots.
Yeah, there's some cahooting going on.
There's some cahooting going on.
Yeah, then Jack kind of it's like a running sequence, running. He ends up in the same area that Elsa was in. He opens the door and she's like, "Don't!" And then he closes the door
because this is a 1940 special.
Yep. And then she's like, "Oh man."
Yeah, and she's like, they're in like a tomb of her dead relative or dead ancestors.
Yeah,
and she's just like, "Wait a minute, that's one of my dead ancestors that always said she's."
We do some classic character bonding here.
Yeah,
like we're both trapped here. We might have do some exposition.
You're a man, I'm a woman. All those things get encompassed into this.
We might as well do some exposition while we're here.
Right.
They come to an agreement. And he's like, "Look, I'm not trying to hunt this monster. I'm trying to free it. If you help me, you can have the bloodstone. We'll just pluck the bloodstone off of him, and you can have it, and that's it."
Yep.
Yeah.
What's the line that he gives her? Because she goes, "What are you gonna do? Just like, oh, what are you, friends with that thing?" And then he just stands there and looks at her, and she's just like, "Oh my god, he is friends with this thing."
This Man-Thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So she cracks into the tomb of one of her relatives, one of the graves, and she got some keys.
Just why? Oh, hilarious! It's so stupid, but it works.
Yeah, it works in the context.
All of these get much more forgiven in something like this because it understands what it's trying to do.
Yeah, they break out, and then they find they get separated. Man-Thing's on the loose. They get separated because he accidentally activates the grenade while trying to figure out how it worked.
You want to talk about some hijinks? Some top tier hijinks. I love Jack Russell's character. He's so he's so against the grain of all this because he's not an assassin. He's just a guy that happens to turn into a wolf. But like
he what?
Oh, sorry. Oh crap! I spoiled the whole Werewolf by Night special. But no, he's very he's just a normal. I just gotta assume he's just like a guy that like goes out to like the diner and just goes to, he's just a regular guy.
Because she's like, "You gotta activate this grenade. There's a crack in the wall over here," and
he's not some cool cool superhero that like.
He's like, "You mean like this?"
Yeah.
Click.
He clicks it and he's just like, "Oh shoot!"
Then it becomes the Batman 66 with the bomb.
Yeah, they just start running around. He throws it at the wall. It bounces off of the wall. He's like, "Oh crap!" Oh man, it's good.
Meanwhile, Elsa's fleeing from the Scotsman. He's back.
He's back. The Scotsman, because he's the main henchman villain.
Yeah,
this thing.
You're the Scotsman from Marvel Comics. I don't know if that guy has a name.
There's the Russian from the Marvel Comics.
Yes. Meanwhile, Jack is trying to blow a hole through this wall. He does finally. He gets it. Man-Thing escapes. Elsa pulls the bloodstone off of him with a little grappling hook thing. The Scotsman is vaporized by Man-Thing.
One of Man-Thing's very many powers. Yep.
So she pulls the bloodstone off of him, and then we did it, guys.
Yep.
Show's over.
Nope.
Except Jack tries to grab the bloodstone, and it zaps him.
Yeah. And then they found out, wait a minute, no humans are allowed to grab the bloodstone. You must be the Werewolf by Night from Marvel Comics, as the show says.
So you find out that this was all the hunters kind of were are together, in this little coven of hunters.
Did you say coven?
So Jack and Elsa are locked up in a cage, and Elsa's like, "Well, this is great. I'm gonna die." Lovely.
Yep.
And Jack's like, "Oh, you don't have to worry. I won't turn. I'm only dangerous one night a year.
Yeah, I got 5 days until the full moon. I'm good."
And she's like, "You realize they're just gonna use the bloodstone to make you turn into whatever you are, right?" And he's like, "Oh no,
crap, that dang bloodstone."
So he's like, "Look, I know I couldn't just tell you that I was the Werewolf by Night because you probably would have killed me." And she's like, "Yeah, fair."
And he's just like, "Well, we're gonna try something," and he starts sniffing her like a dog.
Yep.
Spoiler alert, it works.
Yeah, because he's like, just make sure whatever you do, keep your eyes locked.
Just like dogs do, so they can recognize you. Yep.
Yeah, and I got your scent, and we'll see if this works. So the stepmom comes in with all these hooded figures that turn out to be the other hunters, and she uses the bloodstone to turn him into the werewolf. Cue insane great transformation sequence.
Oh my gosh. So the way they go about it is they kind of use this strobe effect, and you see it from Elsa's perspective, which is even better because it invokes that horror, that fear of what this man is turning into. He's truthfully turning into a monster. Oh, it's so well executed. Shout out to Michael Giacchino. He really killed it in this MCU director debut for him. He did the music, by the way, too. He did the score.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'd hope, right. What is Michael Giacchino going to be like, hey, let's get somebody else to do the music? No, you do the music, Michael Giacchino.
It's very good.
It is
the
very
score
good.
is very good.
It's so classic. That's why it works so well.
So the werewolf escapes his cage, because what was the plan here with these henchmen? Turn him into the werewolf, have him kill her, and then kill him?
Well, I mean, because they wanted Elsa off the board because she's like such like a disgrace to this estate.
Great plan, guys.
Yeah, not a great plan.
So the werewolf escapes, and then we're like, classic horror again, like, where is he?
Oh, the camera work in the third act of this is so good. Like that little pan up they do, and then the cage is broken, and then they do the pan left, and like you can't see him, and then his eyes start to glow, and you're like, oh my god.
You're waiting for the jump scare.
Yep.
You're waiting for the jump scare to happen, and then it happens.
He's just perched in the corner, like, and then you see his eyes glow, and he just jumps down. I'm like, oh, he looks so good.
And he goes to work.
He does go to work. What? And I thought they were gonna still be like, all right, this is still gonna be cheesy. No, this is some really good. It's good,
nice action. Yeah,
yeah.
It's a great blend of obviously what it's homaging, and then like the modern Marvel kind of action sequence, which I really enjoyed. It was really good. He's capable. He's acrobatic. He's cutting throats.
Yeah, and you could tell that when he's the werewolf, he's kind of succumbed to that. He's succumbed to the moon, so he really can't. He's a predator at this point. He's not like this mild-mannered Jack Russell. He's a killer at this point.
Yeah, he locks eyes with Elsa for a second, and they kind of have like that. He like recognizes her moment, and and then we get a Daredevil one take hallway sequence.
It's so good. The lighting on it, and one thing that from like a filmmaking perspective, like if you're doing black and white, your lighting has to be like, it has to be impeccable when you do it. And like, not only was it impeccable, they used it to further, the visual storytelling of this, because that door is closing, and like he's ripping guys' throats out, and like the blood's on the camera. Yep. Like, oh, he can move. Like, I think they're gonna, and I'll save it for a little bit, but I think they're gonna lead this into like, they punch each other for a bit, then they're mates with him and Moon Knight.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Then the door closes, and meanwhile, Elsa is fighting the remaining hunters.
Getting brutal.
Kills them both, cuts their throats, both of them.
Yep.
And then the evil stepmom rears up again.
I love that she's just the stepmom. Like, it's such like a Disney way to do it.
So obviously he's feral, so he's scratching, and then he sees her, goes after her. She zaps him with the bloodstone.
I have the bloodstone.
Yeah. And then she keeps zapping him, and you think it's curtains for our old pal, the werewolf by night. But then, so Elsa gets involved, and then
spears her,
but she doesn't die. And she's like, "Now I have you both. I'm gonna end you both." And then Man-Thing comes through the ceiling.
Yep, and it just vaporizes her.
And
throws her into Ulysses' like puppeteering casket. Yeah, oh, that's good.
And then Elsa and Jack, the werewolf, have kind of like a he's like on top of her, and they have a like, hey big guy, sun's getting real low. Yep. And they have like a nice, touching moment, even though we haven't spent a ton of time with these characters.
I mean, that just tells you what they did in such a short amount of time.
You still feel something in that moment, like you genuinely enjoy both these characters by this point. And then the werewolf absconds, and then Elsa's left with Man-Thing, and Man-Thing's like, well, where'd she go?
Again, Man-Thing's he's just the guy. He's just like a normal person.
Yeah, it's very, classic kind of, soft monster trope, where he's kind of like violent when he needs to be, like the misunderstood beast kind of trope, in this. That's how they present Man-Thing, which I think is perfect. And then she's like, oh, he took off, and Man-Thing's like, all right, I guess I gotta go find him. And then, Elsa's left with the bloodstone, with the inheritance of the manor, and the little butler guy comes around. He's like, I live to serve you, Miss Bloodstone. She's like, you can clean all this up, please. Thank you. She sits down, and then we do the Wizard of Oz. Everything that was once black and white turns to color. She's got a great looking, vibrant red coat.
Yep, which it's looking like how she looks in the comics. Like, it's a really nice reveal. Again, that big homage to the Wizard of Oz it's really well executed.
Yep, and then we cut to the forest, and Man-Thing's playing solitaire.
Again, he's just a guy
waiting for Jack to emerge, and he's like, "Oh, what happened?" And they have a nice little chat, and then he's like, "What do you mean? You always save me? Like, that's not how this works. I always save you, old chap." And then that's it. That's the end. And I really
it literally says the end.
It does. We didn't get no post credit scene, nothing like that.
I don't think it needed it.
I think it needed it. I think it was a great self-contained story that introduced us to three players that we may see later on down the line in the MCU. The performances were all great. Cannot say enough good things about the direction and the cinematography of this. It quickly vaulted to one of my favorite Marvel things that we've gotten, not only this year, but just across the board. Just really tight. Not a lot of wasted moments.
Tight.
It wasn't no wasted time. I see exactly why this was made for what it was, and I would love to see more of these. If you're planning on doing an introduction of characters, small introduction to different corners of the MCU, I'd love to see more stuff like this.
Right.
Down the line.
I think Ironheart can probably benefit from something like, I don't think you need to do, because you're going to get a bit of it in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but like, and you're probably going to get more of it in Armor Wars. Like, I feel like somebody like Riri Williams, she doesn't need like a 6-episode dive into everything. Like,
I would also love to see one of these for established characters.
Yeah, you know where
kind of like single issues of like a comic.
That's the literal perfect way. Again, when we talk about Phase 4 at the end of the year after Black Panther Wakanda Forever, that's what the Phase 4 finally feels like. If I were to pick up a comic right now, like, that's what it feels like right now. And again, where I think this is gonna really start to benefit once Phase 7 hits for your mutant characters. Like, just give me a special for Storm, for Cyclops. Like, you don't need to dive. Yeah, you don't, because if you're gonna keep them on the movies and not have them on Disney Plus, like, what I think they're gonna do is, like, some of the other X-Men teams are gonna get to Disney Plus, where like obviously the main titled X-Men are going to be in the movies. I think you should just have like a Cyclops one-off, like a Jean Grey one-off.
I love that.
They're just like your single issue origin.
Like I said, I'd love to see them try this with like an established character. Bring Haley Steinfeld in, do a Kate Bishop, like a special presentation where she goes out and only does like a mission,
right?
Does like a thing, you know what I mean? Just and do little beats. You could even do one for like Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi doing something,
right? Yeah, I think that would be a really good way to go about it. Like, you don't need to spend all the money that you do on a movie, but you just go open a Shang-Chi comic from the 70s, go point your hand until you find a villain, just have that villain be the villain of this thing, and just do it like that. It's simple.
Give us a cool fight at the end.
Give us a cool fight. That's it.
I think that would be great.
It would be an insane one that it's never going to happen? If they were to do Hulk versus Wolverine for one, that would be an absolutely wild one to do.
Yeah, I think this, obviously there are things, I think benefit from being a limited series or episodic, but I think there are a ton of things that could benefit from this model. Especially, people cite, kind of the wheel spinniness of certain episodes of these Disney Plus series. I think you could really tighten things up and also do things that are different and make things feel distinct from one another. I think is another great thing that these could provide, because I mean, like I said up top, like, this is not something you can compare to anything else that they've done. They literally handed the keys to Michael Giacchino and were like, what kind of inspiration are you drawing from? And he's like, I want to do like a 40s 50s creature feature. And they're like, great, go for it.
Have fun. Yeah, give us like depending on what they do with Iron Fist, like, give us like a 70s action shot kung fu movie. Like, do one of those. Like, you can do so many different things. So really, really solid special.
And it's been received very well.
91% certified and 95% audience. Like, that's exactly kind of where you want it around. So people are really loving it. I watched like the compilation of all the reactors on YouTube. They're like, consensus, everybody at the very least thinks this is like a really cool thing they did. So I think everybody from around the community is really enjoying what we got from this.
Yeah, and count me as one of them.
Yep.
I really enjoyed it. And
let's talk future, because this is what you came for. You came for
for theories.
Yeah, you didn't come for Michael Giacchino to do a creature feature. You came for us to talk theories.
Yeah, and obviously, quite clearly, with Jack Russell and Elsa Bloodstone, we are furthering the development of the Midnight Suns. So I think that's still going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the big hammer that has yet to drop, as far as I'm concerned, is Blade, which we're getting, however long in the future.
Just interesting that the Blade director leaves, and then Michael Giacchino drops this banger, and it's like it's almost like there's just a plate just being held out.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah. That he gets that. I think that would be phenomenal. The only thing I said to you is like the logistics behind like a full feature length film that's going to get released in theaters is such a huge commitment, which I don't think he would, sublet his acclaimed composing career to be a full-time director. Or hey, maybe he does, because I think he's pretty talented, so
yeah,
maybe he does say, you know what, I'm just gonna I might make a score here or there, but like what I might do is like I'm gonna score the movie that I write and I direct. So I would love to see him on Blade. I think he understands it too, and then there's a lot of beauty that comes out of your music and a lot of development that comes out of music too that fit certain situations. So, and he's kind of cutting out the middleman there if he does both. Yeah. So it's such a tall order to ask somebody to do, but I think he can do it.
Yeah, it certainly is a tall order to ask of somebody, but I think you're right. I think that would be a very interesting direction. It's gonna be very interesting going forward what happens with this crew of characters.
So who we got?
So already we have Moon Knight introduced.
And Scarlet Scarab, too,
yep.
On top of that.
Scarlet Scarab, we have Jack Russell, we have Elsa Bloodstone, and we have Dane Whitman.
Yep.
And then we have Blade.
And then you have Man-Thing, too.
Yeah.
So you kind of have this nice little supernatural nexus. That's my next thing about this nexus. Man-Thing's a little bit more important than people give him credit for. So he has to deal with a whole bunch of crap from the nexus of all realities, and it just so happens that we're in the middle of the multiverse saga right now. It's just really interesting timing that you introduce Man-Thing, so I think that's going to be something that's going to get played up a little bit more. So my last member of the Midnight Suns that I wanted to throw in there, and it's because I'm on a Runaways high, is Nico Minor. Would probably be a really good addition. Again, get another sect of the TV shows back in. It's the Hulu. You got the Netflix part. You should probably try to get the Hulu part. Yeah. If you add them, you have your back door to Cloak and Dagger too. So you got options.
I want them to bring Cloak and Dagger back so bad.
And they're young too. They're not old. Like, you can literally bring them in and just have them just be two people that got affected by the same radiation and that dang Roxxon.
And then obviously the other shoe on the big foot is Ghost Rider. Mm-hmm. And when that inevitably takes place,
I think they hold Ghost Rider for Midnight Suns at first.
Yeah.
At first, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's, again, Ghost Rider is one of those kind of Venom Spawn-esque kind of cult characters that people are really into because he looks cool. And he's got a cool kind of concept behind him and everything. So, I think they're waiting for the right moment to strike with Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I think what they should do is you have Dane. Dane's going to kind of go on his descent into madness because A, he lost Cersei. Cersei's nowhere to be found. And B, he's going to start to get corrupted by the, what do they call his sword?
I almost said the Darksaber, but that's not right.
By the Ebony Blade. So he's starting to get a little corrupted by the Ebony Blade. Obviously, Blade himself was there, and he was just like, hey, that thing's called a Blade, I'm called Blade. We should team up. Obviously, the big thing is Moon Knight debuted in Werewolf by Night comics. I mean, even in, I forget what episode of Moon Knight it was, the QR code that they're infamously putting in all the Disney Plus shows, it brought you to the first appearance of Moon Knight, which is pretty cool. So I told you, like, I guarantee you're going to try to pull off that frame of what the first, Moon Knight cover was. They'll try to do that. So that's two more of them. And then you kind of have Man-Thing, which I think might be bigger, but who'd be the villain of this? I think you got one. Do they just do Dracula as the villain of this?
Do you dare get Sony on the phone and be like,
nope,
can we have Morbius?
Nope, don't need to do that. I think we're fine.
Can we have Matt Smith's character from Morbius?
Okay, now I'm back on board. I'll listen to this now. But yeah, maybe you just do Dracula as your villain. It's a pretty big.
That'd be cool.
That's a pretty big Marvel Comics villain.
Pretty big just villain.
Yeah. Blade's just like, hey, I can't do this by myself. This is too much for me to handle. Like, I can handle vampires here and there, but he's the vampire.
Bring back Charles Dance from Dracula Untold as Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah. That Anthony Starr as Dracula would be great against this specific team.
Yeah.
That would be pretty fun. But yeah, the supernatural, we got more into the mystical side of the MCU once we got to Doctor Strange 2 and WandaVision, but now it seems like we're getting into the real supernatural aspect of this.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, like I said, I can't say enough good things about this. I watched this twice and was enthralled by it, encapsulated by it both times. So, instant rewatchability.
Yep.
A great thing to throw on if you find yourself, on Halloween and you want to throw on a nice little scary thing, throw on Werewolf by Night. I would highly recommend it. I think it's a great insertion.
I'm definitely watching the Batman on Halloween. That's no if, and, or but.
Nice. I'm going to watch Up.
Because Michael Giacchino. I'm a little concerned that's the immediate thing that you were going to on... What movies? We should start a list of the movies not to watch on that day. I'm gonna watch Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, that's all I gotta really.
I'm gonna watch Martin Scorsese's Silence on. No, don't do that. I'm gonna watch Hacksaw Ridge on
Halloween.
Yeah,
on Christmas.
Even worse.
Yeah, I think that's really it. That's all I gotta say about this. It was really good. Just two great performances by Garcia and Laura Donnelly, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them in future things. Basically,
can I say my statement?
Yeah,
that I think that Man-Thing and Jack Russell's relationship is better than Bucky and Steve's relationship.
Oh boy,
he's my buddy. He's my pal. He's my confidant.
Oh man, very good.
Don't ask me what I've been doing. I've been doing nothing. I've done nothing over the last, since I've seen you.
Well, I was going to ask you.
So I'm a throny now. Is that the way to say it? I'm in.
I don't think that's what we call ourselves, but sure.
We call ourselves the Midnight Suns. But yeah, I'm in Game of Thrones. I'm in there. I'm on episode 9 of season 1. I'm getting there. Cersei and Jaime they're more than brother and sister. I have to get used to this. I have to take some time to acclimate to this world.
Oh man, if you're gonna have to watch when you watch House of the Dragon, you're really gonna have to stomach that and be ready for the incest.
Yeah, but I mean, I immediately understand why this show is at the time and the biggest show on the planet. There's a reason for it. It's well executed. It's well written specifically. It is just, at the end of the day, it is very much just it's a medieval drama about, succession. That's all this is. It's about human nature and succession and what people will and will not do to kind of, better their names or, further their survival instincts. It's as simple as that. And it's funny that we talk about some of these projects, it seems like sometimes the simpler that they kind of go about, their narratives, how much more compelling they are.
Yep.
So, yeah, I've been enjoying myself. Khal Drogo got stabbed, and I realized that this isn't 2022, and if you get stabbed, you might want to, you probably should get your affairs in order, because it could be clipped for you. This man went out so sad.
Yeah, the death of Khal Drogo is definitely one of those, much like,
Get him an alcohol wipe.
What Game of Thrones does in its early seasons is expect the unexpected, and these characters that you feel could be destined for great character arcs are suddenly undone.
Yeah, Joffrey's still there for a little bit.
Joffrey.
I'm not. You know what? Listen. Joffrey's the
Say
worst,
what you
right?
will about Joffrey.
Joffrey's the worst, right? But Sansa's just what's worse than the bad leader? It's the follower of the bad leader. And I'm looking at you, Sansa.
Under no circumstances do you have to hand it to him.
You have to cut it out. You have to stop.
I guess subletting off of that, I obviously came off of keeping up with the weekly installment of House of the Dragon. Episode 8 was just released, and man, it was one of my favorite episodes of television. Anything. I heard
it was incredible.
Paddy Considine, who has played King Viserys from season 1 till now, put in my opinion, an Emmy-worthy performance in this last episode. everyone continues to be great. Emma Darcy as the older Rhaenyra Targaryen, Olivia Cook as the older Alicent Hightower, Matt Smith, obviously I've been speaking the praises of the last few weeks for his very subdued Daemon Targaryen. I would have to do some digging, but I would venture to say he has, of the main cast, perhaps has the fewest lines and is able to just make the absolute most of every moment that he's on screen. But everyone has been good. This last episode was just incredible. It has probably a scene that a lot of people are going to be talking about for a very long time in it. I won't spoil it here, but for those of you who have watched the episode, you probably know exactly what scene I'm talking about. Yeah, and that's where I've been. I've been keeping up with that. I've been keeping up with Rings of Power, which continues to be good as it heads towards its season finale.
I can't wait to watch that, actually. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm probably going to watch the first Lord of the Rings probably in a couple hours after I finish the last episode of Game of Thrones Season 1.
So yeah, that those two things have been definitely things worth keeping up on and keeping track of as we enter the end of the year and more things to look forward to, more things coming out. We talked about The Last of Us last week. Mm-hmm. Nice little touching interview with Bella Ramsey where she talked about Pedro Pascal sending her a letter after they finished filming about how, he mentioned, not having many transformative experiences on set and that this was one of them for him, sharing that experience with her. So I think that just, again, leads credence into what I think this show is going to be when it inevitably comes out next year.
Yep. I'll watch the Last of Us trailer while you talk even more.
And then
perfect.
And that doesn't surprise me that he came out of it felt that way because the story is so intense.
Yep.
I know Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson have formed an incredible friendship coming off of their work on the game. So
with that, you showed me something the other day. It's stuck in my head every single day since you showed me. So Rob showed me after I was emotionally traumatized by playing The Last of Us and just watched the world end because Joel can help but save his surrogate daughter. You showed me a musical version of this performed by the cast live, The Last of Us One Night Only. And I need every game to do this. I need them to do that with God of War. It would be incredible. Do that with Uncharted. Oh, they missed the opportunity to do that with Uncharted. They should have done that. But yeah, that was just absolutely amazing. Troy Baker's got a phenomenal voice, and it makes me mad because he didn't sing in the first one after Ellie asked him to sing. He said, "I'll do you one better than singing. What if I killed Marlene at the end of this and saved your life?"
Oh, man.
Yeah, the next time you hear from me, I'll probably have played most of part 2, and I'm even going to get even more emotionally wrecked because Rob doesn't care about me.
Nope, not in the least.
Not in the least.
That game, I still haven't replayed it because I just can't. I finished it and I was exhausted. And they're like, "Do you want to start New Game Plus?" I'm like, "No."
Nope, leave me alone. Actually, delete your game. Delete the game yourself.
Your game's off my system now, actually.
Yeah. Shut up, Naughty Dog, you jerks. What's going on in the world? It's award season right now, so at the end of this year, Rob will clear out and let me talk about movies for a little bit because I've seen so many trailers over the last. This is why we got to get famous by this time next year, so I can go to all these premieres. You're gonna see me live from TIFF, which is gonna be great, or live from Sundance. So, New York Comic Con happened this weekend, which brought us, surprisingly, the biggest thing was the Titans news that came from New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
So, Titans just introduced a whole bunch of characters, which is cool. The Boys has 2 new characters, Firecracker and Sister Sage, which are 2 original characters that they're adding to season 4. So obviously The Boys is at its like it feels like The Boys is like one of those shows where it's not even like a comic book property. It's like it's just at its stride as like a show itself of being incredible. So anything that's going to come out of that, people are going to kind of look at for the news, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and then next week, She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
Season in review.
Daredevil featuring She-Hulk.
Stop it.
I've become the very thing I swore to destroy.
So we're going to finally get a chance to unhinge and unleash on our various thoughts on the season of She-Hulk from episode 1 to the coming season finale this week. So that's going to be exciting. And then the week after that is going to be Black Adam.
He's really back. They really brought Henry Cavill back.
So we'll be able to break that down in all its splendor. But until then, you can follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. New episodes posted every Wednesday on there, as well as all your favorite podcast outlets: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google,
iHeartRadio.
We're on there.
Pandora, because this is 2012 again.
Yep, we're on Pandora.
Remember when you had to use Pandora?
Yeah.
And you were at the mercy of the shuffle?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Times have changed.
Limited skips.
You skip too much, then you're stuck with Luke Bryan radio for a little bit.
Remember getting on the bus with your CD player?
Whoa. I didn't have to do that.
I did.
Crap. Oh, we aged ourselves again. I had an iPad mini, or iPod Nano, the one that showed movies, and I had Captain America, the First Avenger, definitely very legally on there, and I watched that movie 712 times, and that's probably a rough, accurate estimate. I know every line from that movie, and that's why Tommy Lee Jones is my favorite actor of all time. You put that gun down now. I did not kill it. This is like the 5th week we've talked about The Fugitive. At some point, my one goal for us for 2023 is just to talk about, like, we're just going to pick a week and talk about a random movie, or maybe, like, we pick a day to add and we talk about a random movie.
Yes.
And we already have short lists of the movies. Like, iRobot's at the top of the list. I don't know how iRobot got up there, but it's up there. The Departed's on there.
Yep.
And The Fugitive's on there. That's, like, the top 3 we need to knock out.
Yeah, and we will. Don't worry, we will.
Wait till we do Will Smith month. We're going to do Will Smith month in February, so it's the Oscar month, too. I saw the Emancipation Trail. Oh, are we not supposed to talk about that?
Oh, my God.
Look. If he's incredible in Emancipation, right? How can he not win an Oscar? He's banned from winning the Oscar, too. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a little, I don't know.
Yeah, like, I feel like if you put out, like, an all-time performance...
Yeah.
He made it real tough because he plays a slave. He put them in a tough spot.
I don't know.
We gotta go, man.
We gotta go, man. Follow us on Instagram.
The Project Infinite Pod. Was that what you were waiting for? You let me talk about the movies we're gonna do. Just wait for our Emancipation trailer next year.
Come on, man.
We're gonna have to talk about it.
I guess we'll have to talk about it.
We got a Causeway. Jennifer Lawrence is back. She's gonna win an Oscar this year. She might, because Michelle Yeoh still exists, and I think she still gave the best performance this year.
True.
Man, maybe that's a movie that we should just wholly review.
Maybe. Yeah, I'd like to do that, actually.
We could do that around Oscar time.
Yeah.
And then we can review... What's the movie? Oh, we can review Amsterdam.
Which is not doing well.
No, it's not. It's getting vehemently crapped on by critics and people, like...
And not making money.
That's
the worst of everything.
Yeah. Oh, Amsterdam, you failed us. But Timothy Chalamet is going to be back this month to soothe our hearts with Bones and all. He's a cannibal this time.
Yes. Great.
You saw what he said about Dune 2? That it's people... He said he doesn't want to jinx it, but he thinks people are really going to love this one. And Austin Butler was, like, incredible. And Florence Pugh is, like, a dream to work with.
Oh, this movie, I mean, is going to be really good.
Yeah.
That's the tactic it went with, eh? Bold, Timothy Chalamet.
You truly are Paul Atreides.
Yeah, we're done. We gotta go.
I've been waved off the stage at the Apollo. We gotta go.
We'll see you next week for She-Hulk. From me, from the Jack Russell of the podcast.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna give me Man-Thing. That would have been fun.
No.
What if you gave me that one assassin, but I won't say anything farther, but you know exactly what I mean?
Careful.
I'll take Jack Russell. I hoped for Man-Thing, but I'll take Jack Russell. He's just like a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's like the guy that you're just out at the bar with.
Yeah, until he becomes the Werewolf by Night.
You're the Werewolf by Night from Marvel Comics. Oh, crap.
He's not just a werewolf. He's a werewolf by night.
And then Moon Knight looks over and he's just like, yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
We're done here.
That's it. We're done here.
We're done here. All right, guys. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Peace.